What's going on, practitioners? Greetings and welcome from Puerto Rico. My name is Zeppelin Vermi. I'm with the Mahavijaya School of Yoga and Ayurveda. And if you like what you see, like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can find a lot of information as well on our blog on mahavidyayurveda.com. So a question we hear quite regularly is, what are the yamas and niyamas? Fundamentally, the yamas and niyamas are a group of precepts or disciplines which help us regulate our behavior in relation to the external world and to ourselves. So these practices initiate a growing shift in understanding surrounding the way a practitioner engages with the world, which relates to the yamas, and themselves personally, which relates to the niyamas. They are a method of discipline related to the way we engage with the world and ourselves. And you can reflect on how this could be a very important principle to serve as the preliminary practices amongst the limbs of yoga, fundamentally, because when you are not considering your relationship to the world or to yourself, how are you going to know anything deeper? You're just thinking about what? So the yamas, ahimsa, nonviolence is the first yama and the most important of these precepts. So in relation to the external world, not harming, not injuring, not creating further negativity or suffering for another being. This could also extend to your relationship with a variety of things beyond humans, animals, plants, beyond plants, the earth. We can consider how we engage in our relationship with everything. And of course, there are resources that we need to use, but are we being too aggressive in our approach? Are there things we can do to moderate that? And so fundamentally, we know if we're personally being aggressive to someone in our life, this could be a very challenging situation for both parties. And that violent atmospheres create a very challenging circumstance in which to practice successfully. It's not a good vibe. So it's very important to think about, and it's all-encompassing. And so this preliminary or first yama is the most important component of inner discipline related to the yogic path and the tradition of yoga. The second is satya, or truthfulness, and this interfaces quite well with nonviolence. But fundamentally, we know what it means to not lie, to not be dishonest. And so initially, we're just reflecting on how to be honest in our thoughts, in our words, in our deeds. And this level of honesty should never extend itself into an aggressive manner in the yogic approach, because we can be honest and it could be hurtful. And now this doesn't negate the reality sometimes that some truths are hard. And so sometimes we have to say something that's very challenging to convey a truth that may incidentally hurt maybe an individual for a very short period of time. However, the larger extent or outcome of that situation would be worse. But in general, as an example, your friend asks you if you like their outfit, and you don't happen to like it, and you say it in a harsh way. Like, this is an example fundamentally, or in a general way, of how we could be too truthful, too honest in a potentially violent way, or a negative way, or a harmful way, and that we should consider that about ways we express ourselves and ways we relate to the world. And asteya, the third yama, non-stealing. Pretty straightforward that if we start taking things that are not ours, that we didn't build, that we didn't work for, our relationship to different individuals in the world is going to be compromised fundamentally. If we steal information from other people. Fundamentally, it's violating satya and potentially ahimsa as well. And so asteya can be more challenging for some than others, but it is incredibly useful. It helps build your willpower and energy. It can make you more creative, more productive by being honest about what is yours and what you need to create in order to do something. The fourth, brahmacharya, can literally mean walking in Brahma consciousness. In the yogic context, we translate it as energy control, sometimes celibacy also. And this is because we're encouraged to control our senses and our primal urges. And so a very significant primal urge within us is sexual energy. And so it's important to control and to regulate that in some capacity. And now that is going to be different for every individual. It depends, are you a renunciate or are you a householder? So the relationships will differ. But fundamentally, we know when that energy is uncontrolled, that can create issues for us and for the world. So it's very useful to control your sexual energy. It's also very useful to control your senses in general and to consider where your senses are going throughout the day and what you're imbibing through your senses and how that's affecting your consciousness. Because when we exhibit some form of restraint or control related to that, will conserve energy, the mind can be more focused, and then we become more efficient in any given task. The fifth is aparigraha, or non-attachment, non-covetousness, non-greed. And so this relates to things in the external world fundamentally, acknowledging that things may come, things may go. Also, not coveting material items, emotions, individuals, or attention. Also potentially resources, recognizing that we will be taken care of and what we don't personally need is easily shared. And so these are the 5 yamas in a very succinct nutshell. Very, very important for regulating your behavior in relation to the external world, but can also be applied with greater subtlety interiorly as well. The niyamas, disciplines related to yourself initially. So the first is saucha, cleanliness or purity, and has a strong, obvious connection with physical cleanliness and maintaining that sense of good hygiene on a regular basis. We all know that when somebody stops brushing their teeth or stops showering, that there's something imbalanced, something not totally right within that individual. And so we see this reflected in so many different self-care practices and so many different modalities. But then also cleanliness internally as well, of your physiology, you could say, of your respiration, and definitely cleanliness of the mind. So how clean are your thoughts? Do you notice a lot of negativity? Are they just generally impure thoughts? These kinds of things are drawing your energy outward, and they're cultivating an internal state that makes it more challenging for practice. So it's important to consider those things for oneself and ways to neutralize the thoughts or cultivate the opposite. The second niyama is santosha, or contentment. And now this has fundamentally to do with accepting things as they are. And it doesn't mean things don't need to change. It doesn't mean things won't change, but it allows for you to cultivate this notion of acceptance in the moment so that you can be calm, you can be peaceful, and you can still know and take action from there. But also to do with material goods, they all can tie back into the yamas as well. You could see contentment in relation to asteya, for example, or aparigraha, and non-covetousness. So fundamentally nurturing a sense of inner peace, of contentment, a neutral attitude. Perfect breeding ground for practice. The next is tapas, literally means to cook. But to cook what? Some have interpreted that as to cook your body and to make it hard, like a clay pot, fit for practice or for spiritual undertakings. And another way is austerity or spiritual zeal, and to be motivated, to have the internal fire, to practice in the face of challenges, in the face of adversity. Not every day it's going to necessarily be the most perfect day for practice, and of course, but to still maintain consistency with those practices and to do them because you've seen results or you aspire toward results, but to maintain that consistency and that motivation is tapas. The next is svadhyaya, or self-study, or study of holy texts. And so we see not only the study of our individual self and the nature of our consciousness, but connecting with wisdom, absorbing ourselves in wisdom from different eras. And there are so many great compiled texts and authors from hundreds and thousands of years ago that exist for us today to be able to reflect upon. They have large offerings of wisdom that help orient our mind in a spiritual way to remind us of deeper things, of deeper truths, of a reality beyond perhaps what we initially are connecting with and can see. And this ties in as well to Ishvara Pranidhana, the fifth niyama, which you could say is surrendering all actions to the form or formless infinite consciousness. And it has to do with recognizing that there is something greater than ourselves that connects us all. And we can identify that as a being with form or as a being that is formless. Either way, it's a power greater than ourselves that connects us all and is beneath the initial surface layers of our awareness, of your body, of your physical energy, your mental body. And so beneath those layers, there is a light that shines. Eventually, through practice, we can purify those outer layers, and that light can shine through. And others may even see that light as well very easily within us. But fundamentally, it's important to see that in yourself as well, and to recognize your connection to this energy, and to allow the things that you do to become an effortless work of art, an offering to the world through this energy. And so now, integrating the yamas and niyamas can be a quite challenging undertaking when you're first engaging with it. Slow and steady is the way to fully integrating this. These are really ideals that we're meant to consistently reflect upon and not condemn ourselves about our degree of perfection with. But here are some suggestions for practical application. So fundamentally reflecting upon your relationship to the yamas and niyamas on a daily basis. Find a comfortable time after an evening meditation or even just before bed. You think about them all. How did you relate to them? What situations occurred? Where could you have done better? Where did you do pretty good? What challenges, perhaps, or what is challenging or unaddressed in relation to the yamas or niyamas? What things have you not reflected upon very deeply before? What components come easily? Sometimes that's helpful to know so that you know that this is a strong skill of yours already, and that maybe there's something else that you need to focus on, but you can still appreciate that skill and that quality within yourself. And then after you've got a regular connection and understanding of the yamas and niyamas, you can contemplate each yama or niyama daily. And if you do this individually, it'll take you about a month to cycle through it 3 times, which can be really rewarding and increase the depth of your understanding and connection to those components and integration of them into life and into practice. So then you can slowly begin expanding your awareness of them into other elements. And so then ahimsa, as an example, instead of just only being approached to the external world, can be applied towards yourself. Think about your physical body, being nonviolent to your physical body, your energy body, being nonviolent energetically or psycho-emotionally, mentally, maintaining a peaceful, gentle approach with the contents of your mind, especially if you're working on neutralizing conditioning patterns and behaviors or samskaras within yourself, which is a foundational goal as well of practice. And so highly encourage you to consider these concepts and disciplines and integrating them into your practice. If you liked what you've seen, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Check out our webpage, mahavidyayurveda.com. We've got a blog with a ton of useful information and a reflection on this lecture as well. So we wish you success in your practices. Thank you.